Welcome to Nutrapreneur, your gateway to the latest innovations and trends in the nutraceutical industry. I'm your host, Bethany. In this episode, we're honored to have Luca Bucchini, Managing Director at Hylobates Consulting, as our guest. Luca is also chair of the European Specialist Sports Nutrition Alliance, also known as ESSNA. With expertise in food risk assessment, regulatory consulting, and labeling, Luca's insights are invaluable for anyone navigating the complex world of food and nutraceutical regulations. Hylobates Consulting is based out of Rome, and they've been a cornerstone in the sector since 2003, offering specialized services in food safety, labeling, health claims, and more. Welcome, Luca. It's so great to have you today.
Thank you. Good to be with you on this call.
Yes. And so first off, it'd be great if you could tell us about the genesis of Hylobates Consulting and your journey to becoming its managing director.
Yeah, it's about 20 years ago. I had worked in academia in the United States, working in risk assessment for foods particularly. And yeah, we decided with my current partner, a business partner, to start a company to do in the private sector what we had done in academia. And we started off with risk assessment with the safety side. We worked on that side, but we soon found that there was a lot of interest in addressing the regulatory matters concerning food supplements and food. So we started to work with companies, and we grew with the businesses. Actually, we learned from them, and we work with regulators. We of course studied regulations, and the company has grown over time. We have now 22 people. We work across the globe.
Wow, that's fantastic. And yes, I'm sure, 20 years ago, there was definitely a demand for this type of consulting. And then even now, there's still so many people that need assistance with regulations because they can be a bit vague and difficult to understand. And of course, they're always changing as well.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, there is a lot. I mean, consumers, rightly so, want to be healthy, want to continue to be healthy as they age. And so there is a demand for products, for food supplements, for nutraceuticals that would help them. And the industry is responding with innovation. And at the same time, regulators across the world are trying to figure out their best way, or they're trying, sometimes failing, but they are trying at least to define regulation. And so companies that want to bring products to market need good regulatory advice. So they don't have problems, and they don't, on the other side, do waste time and doing the wrong thing or making things more complicated than they are. So yes, there is a lot of demand, and we will not with larger companies getting into the sector, new companies, new ideas, new products. There is a lot of work, and it remains a very interesting job for us, and very fascinating in understanding regulations, in understanding the products, the ideas, understanding the science, and then working with the companies and seeing them succeed with their products and ideas.
Yeah, and in this, constantly evolving regulatory environment, how does Hylobates ensure its clients stay compliant, especially in the area of food supplements and dietetic products?
Well, we need to understand the products. So we work with our customers, or we see the composition of products. We ask them, of course, that's part of the compliance review, for the composition. We look at the labels. We see their advertising material, and we warn them whenever there is a change of regulations or of scientific evidence may affect them. So we have a lot of respect for business decisions. So we don't try to replace their decision making, but our aim is to be precise and informative in what we do. So we want to keep our customers updated at any time of what is going to happen, what is happening, and what is going to happen, but may affect them. And so but helps them stay compliant all the time, or or choose what they want to do in a very informed way, but protects consumers and informs them correctly.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. There are businesses that are quite receptive to regulatory feedback, and then there's others, of course, that just want to go along with their business decisions. There's going to be a little bit of conflict of interest there. But I think it's great that, you're keeping them informed and providing advice to make sure their products are as compliant as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very valid point. And for many companies, it's a matter of not knowing the regulations. Of course, there are some very bad companies out there, but really don't care about regulation or even the safety of their consumers. But most companies try to do their best. Sometimes they take their risks, especially on the claim side. But when you look, at non-compliance and also with ESNA, you have mentioned my me being a chair of ESNA. We have a compliance program also to tackling non-compliance in the sports industry sector. And many companies just don't know. I mean, so very often companies have problems with retailers or problems with authorities because they don't know. It's not a choice. So we try to help them maximize compliance, because that I think it's really unfortunate to be non-compliant because you don't know what you're doing.
Right. And I think that's important too, just not only just correcting what might be non-compliant, but also kind of educating them along the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And explain, it's I think one of our main points or things that we explain to our junior consultants that they need to explain the regulations and the effects of regulations to customers, because educating them, it's not just providing information, but really making them understand why the regulation dictates this or that action. And so education is key, because, and it's part of the competitive advantage. If you don't understand the regulations, you face problems, or maybe you want to things that are allowed because you don't know. So I think, yeah, you're really right. Education is key for industry, for the industry.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you've worked with a lot of different businesses and teams over the last 20 years. And so could you share with us an instance where your team navigated a challenging regulatory scenario and really highlight your approach and the outcome?
Yeah, that's a very good question. One of the most, we over 20 years, we witnessed many things. For example, the emergence of e-commerce for food supplements and dietary supplements. It's been a great change. But part of that, we work across the world, but particularly in Europe, in the EU. And what really changed about 10 years ago was that companies that used to sell in their own country, or maybe they went to another country in Europe, but always through distributors with different labels. So what happened with the internet is that companies started to market the same product, the same pack, to different countries. And that was a big challenge because regulations are different. Then Amazon came up, and again the same issue appeared. So it was difficult. Products were blocked. There were many issues. So companies were looking desperately for consultants able to help them, and we were there, and we had expertise. We built further expertise, really, to help companies comply, change their labels, or make labels that could fit on package and still be compliant. Do all the notifications, registration required in all the countries with our expert, but with deep knowledge of each country. So I think we were instrumental to help, companies market the same product across Europe. And what was a big change? It's really was a sea change for companies, for which companies emerge. And I'm happy to say that we enabled that that change. And it was through dedication and expertise, building expertise. That's really the key in this sector.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think that's another thing that just comes from lack of knowledge. I think a lot of businesses don't realize just how different the regulations are from country to country. And, certain ingredients aren't allowed in some countries, or they're more of a medicinal product rather than a supplement, and or you have to register, there's all those different scenarios. And so being able to help people take their brands internationally is huge.
Yeah, it's right. It's been a good thing really. Companies did not understand. They saw the problems. They still see the problems in different countries, but many companies succeeded. I mean, having the same product, and now I would say not all, but many, if not most, of our food supplement customers in Europe have a multi-country strategy. They try to bring the same product at the same time in at least 3 or 4 of the main European countries. So, yeah, this has changed completely. And I think it has benefited consumers in terms of more products and better prices, and better quality as well. So, yeah, it's and it's, you mentioned it's evolving all the time. France is bringing in a new approach. I can't say a better approach, but a new approach. So it changes all the time, and we are still trying to figure out the best way for companies to label in a compliant way.
Yeah. And, the nutraceutical industry is also witnessing rapid technological advancements. So, how does Hylobates integrate these technologies in risk assessment and regulatory consulting?
Well, yeah, we realized some time ago, many years ago actually, but we implemented a better use of IT. I think we of course we are constantly updated with scientific. We have a process to follow all regulatory changes to anticipate it, and also in the scientific area. But we are integrating that, but in our IT system. So, in a way that we can bring all changes, all the new ideas rapidly to bear on what regulatory advice we give. And I think there are some very advanced things, and that they're coming up, and we've been happy to provide advice on those as well. Like, I think cultured meat, not exactly nutraceutical, but we have been working on that as well. So we are, and that means not only understanding regulations that exist today, but try to predict that the regulation that will come up. So that's very challenging and interesting. But on an everyday level, I think that we are bringing more and more IT in our process, including artificial intelligence, but in a way that can interact well with the human consultants, because that's really what is needed, the interaction of the machine with the human.
This episode is brought to you by NutraPayments.com. If your business needs credit card processing that fully integrates with most major Nutra software platforms, offers the lowest industry prices, and has built-in features like recurring billing, $0 trials, and chargeback prevention, then visit us at NutraPayments.com for a free online quote. And the label, I think, is such a critical aspect of a product, and there are a lot of regulations about labeling. So, and they're also crucial for consumer trust. That's usually the first thing that the consumer is looking at. So, what strategies does Hylobates employ to assist clients in these areas, ensuring that their labels are accurate and they're following all regulations?
Yeah, so we have multiple steps. So the first thing, but even with artificial intelligence and what have you today in terms of IT, people tend to forget is that first you need to understand what is in the product. And some companies, are separating the labeling apart from R&D and from production, you need to know what is in the product and what is the name, the correct name on, and the correct warnings on the implication for safety of the ingredient. And if you are not very careful about that, you will get all the levels wrong. So you need to understand the composition of the product in full. But I think that's where we tend to focus most of the time, because most of our time, because the consultants need to understand that, and the companies need to understand that. And that's a reason, mistakes are made at that level. So we get the information on the composition, on the specific ingredients, and then we work with the customer to define the label. So we have a process to put together, an automated process to put together the label information in different languages. So that's another part. So we propose we check the text. We have always at least 2 people checking all texts. Then that text goes to the company. We get the artworks back. We check the artworks again, mix of automation and humans as many times as required to get the label, which is compliant and is compliant, understandable for consumers, and is consistent with the philosophy and marketing of the company.
Yeah. And from your experience, what are the most common hurdles for companies in the realm of food safety and labeling? And how does your firm help overcome those challenges?
Well, I'd say for many companies, large and very large, the issue is lack of staff with sufficient experience, because they have other things to do. And there are very few professionals out there that are qualified. So they make mistakes because the staff doesn't have the skills, doesn't have the time. So that to review, to understand the regulation. So that's the big issue. And then the lack of automated system, the lack of software, appropriate software, leads to mistakes. And the worst mistake is, well, there are many bad mistakes, but I think from a consumer's point of view, so also our point of view, is that when allergens are missed or ingredients are missed, because that's really a safety issue. So that's for us the first concern, and those mistakes do happen. So that's the first issue that we focus on, and yeah, so that's the first, or really not having the staff, not having the time, and not having the resources to do it. So you get a wrong label, and it can be a safety issue. So the product needs to be recalled. Or very often companies are unhappy because there are mistakes, even grammar mistakes, or sometimes it has happened that a company states in front of pack, no, with no caffeine, and then there is caffeine in the ingredient list, which is obviously quite bad. So those are other mistakes that you need a process, and many companies do not have a process for that, even relatively large companies. So we specialize on this. We don't specialize on manufacturing. We don't specialize on selling products. That's what brands do. We specialize in this.
Yeah, because there's so many components to a label. And if you're trying to do everything manually and you might not understand the regulations, it can be easy to miss something. Or like you said with allergens, I think sometimes there's ingredients in the product that you might not realize contain an allergen, but they do. Or even the various countries have different allergens that need to be claimed. So that probably also is another mistake that gets made.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's another issue. And then the warnings may are also important. Sometimes it's a regulatory issue. Sometimes it's a really safety issue, because consumers need to be aware about what is the proper use of the product. And it can be serious. For example, let's say if the product is saved when you take 1 tablet per day, is by mistake you suggest 4 tablets per day, then there could be a serious issue. So there are many things that you need to check at multiple levels. So yeah, and as you said, people read the labels, rely on the labels for proper use. And they also need to be clear, because otherwise consumers do not read them in full, and
Mm-hmm.
that can be an issue. So yeah, it's a small part of the entire industry, but it's significant nonetheless.
Yes, and you have extensive experience in nutrient and health claims. And so what trends do you foresee in the regulatory landscape of the nutraceutical industry?
Well, I'll try. So I mentioned this before. I think people, rightly so, have a desire to keep healthy, and even as they age, to keep doing things, to even young people to just want to be healthy and prepare for living a healthy life even at a young age. So this is the underlying trend that in a prosperous society is going to continue. And so you will get more products. I think we will, there might be, say, small trends related to acute intake like caffeine, or focus, immediate focus. Yes, I think they, they might be important for a while, but I think the main claims would relate to mental health and mental well-being as you age, um, muscle fitness, but not so much in the sense of of bodybuilding and like. Yes, this will continue in sport performance, but people will want to continue to be able to have a good muscle mass as they age. So I see that, and I work a lot with sports nutrition, and what we have seen, and this is going to continue, is that if you are an elite athlete, or you are very physically active, the main thing is that you need to be in good health to exercise. And so we are seeing, and we will continue to see more products to help the physically active to keep in shape, to avoid respiratory infections, and to avoid injuries. So, and claims related to those will be, the legislation on claims in Europe is very complicated. So maybe the way of communicating the benefits will not be through the health claims regulation, but those are there as well. I expect more innovation, and more need to provide regulatory advice. Again, and the other big trend is sustainability, and we'll see more of that. There might be some moments in which things seem to go backwards, but yeah, sustainability will be a big trend, and so substantiating sustainability, substances that are sustainable, but that would be another big trend in the coming years.
Yeah, absolutely. And, how does Hylobates Consulting prepare for the upcoming changes and regulations, especially concerning novel foods and sports nutrition, like you mentioned?
Yeah, so part of our work is, of course, we part of our work is reactive, in the sense that there is a new regulation is published, and we study it, we interpret it in a way that's useful, that can be applied to the products we will deal with. But we try to do more than that. We read the proposed regulations so we understand what things are, and even before that, we read the science, the scientific opinions and views that are going to shape regulations. So in a way that we help our customers to prepare for regulatory change. And so that's reading scientific literature, attending scientific conference, attending regulatory conferences. So we anticipate in that sense what is going to happen. Of course, and we follow case law, because case law in the member states, in the EU, but also at the European level, is also shaping what has to be done in the regulatory field.
Yes. And, looking ahead, what are Hylobates Consulting's goals and visions, particularly in contributing to the evolution of the global regulatory framework?
Yeah, look, I what we see is that as our industry, the sports nutrition industry and the food supplement industry, continue to grow, and because of consumer demand, we see that regulators are failing more than in the past. They failed in the past, are still failing. for complex political reasons or for complex reasons, they're not keeping track. And it's not very often the fault of individuals, but it's the lack of attention, a mix of things. So we have to contend with this situation. And the only good response from the industry has to be that industry is reliable in the sense that they have best practices, they apply the regulation, they interpret them in a good way. So the response, we help the industry in that sense. So as we have many customers, we work with so many products, and we help define standards and help industry compliance. So but our contribution really is to make sense of sometimes the regulatory mess out there, and so that in the end, that part of that uncertainty, part of that interactions of regulation becomes coherent. So what our vision is really to provide that type of excellent understanding of regulations, putting them together so the output is not only good compliance, reliability of products from a compliance point of view. So, and in that sense, I think we are helping the industry, we are helping consumers to be compliant, safe, and responsible, even in the face of a fragmented regulatory landscape. So our vision is to continue to do that, and always in a better way by having very good consultants, excellent consultants, because people matter, and we want to have more and more great consultants, and with systems, with IT systems that take human error out of the way and help, put everything together in an effective way. So that's our vision.
Well, once again, thank you, Luca, for sharing your profound insights and the impactful work of Hylobates Consulting. For those looking to delve deeper into the world of regulatory consulting and food safety, we will provide links to Hylobates Consulting. Remember to subscribe and share your thoughts on today's discussion. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations right here on Nutrapreneur, where we explore the cutting edge of nutraceutical innovations.